Hello, my fellow pen enthusiasts. I've got another pen review here for you. And today I wanted to get this one out of the way. This is the Penbbs 380 pen that I acquired. I think I've had it now for about 2.5, 3 weeks, probably maybe even longer than that. I get lost sometimes on how long I've had pens. Now, I waited a while to get this pen. There, of course, was mixed reviews on it, and when it was initially launched, I can't remember the exact prices it was selling for. I think in the range of around $50 to $60, and it sold out really fast. So, which I wasn't too upset about. I was fine with waiting to see if it got restocked, and it did. And I happened to pick this up off the Penbbs store, but the eBay store. And it was $31.99 on there, and then of course $6 for shipping, so $37.99, so about 38 bucks I paid for the pen. So to me, not a bad price to try it out. Of course, it's a full metal body, aluminum pen, that anodized aluminum is I think what they call it. It does feel nice, and I think it looks nice in person. This pen, to me, it's a little bit unique, and I know there's other pens that have like these faceted sides like this one does, but I think it's an attractive pen, and of course, it's not going to be for everyone as far as the look of it. I like the fact that, you can literally kind of just put it however you want on your desk. If you want the clip facing up, if you're that person that wants your clip facing up, which typically that's me, you can do it that way, or if you want it more at an angle, just something I think kind of neat. And just sometimes just twirling the pen around, I like doing sometimes. So just some kind of quirky things with it. Now this pen, I counted the sides, it has 10 sides. I barely can remember geometry from school, but I think it's called like a decagon or something like that. Not that that really matters anything like that. Those of you that are math major or something in school can definitely correct me in the video, but it does have 10 sides. I do know that. Now the clip, I really like this clip. It's basically the same exact material. I'm glad that they went with that. I think it looks nice. I would have been okay even if this pen didn't have a clip, but I think the clip, it's got a good functionality to it. It's nice and springy, goes in and out of a shirt pocket perfectly fine. As you can tell, the cap here is like two different pieces right here. So you've got your clip inside of this finial, and it works good, no issues there. We see that we have Penbbs 380 on top of the finial here. Of course, it's flat, and then same thing down here at the end of the barrel. And both the cap and the barrel kind of taper down some, which I like. Again, I like that. Kind of gives you a nice shape. I think the ergonomics with the pen is not bad from that perspective. Now, with a pen like this, one thing that does, and I'm just going to throw this out there, and of course, a couple of reviewers I think pointed this out, a little bit annoying. So when I first got the pen, these lines as you went to cap and uncap the pen would always meet up perfectly well. But over time, I think just from that tension of recapping, you'll notice that the lines unfortunately don't meet up anymore. And I will say you can't miss it, and especially if you know that it's there, it does bother me. Now, someone just looking at this with the naked eye, they're not going to probably notice it, but it does bother me the fact that is, I think, I don't want to necessarily say it's a design flaw, but in essence, it's kind of what it is. To me, the pen should, meet up better than what it does. And I think most of us have become fairly accustomed to Penbbs quality, and I don't know if this pen entirely meets that when you really look at it. And maybe I'm just being too critical, but just something that I noticed. Now, as far as uncapping the pen, if I remember correctly, it takes 2¼ turns. There's 1, there's 2, and yeah, so about 2¼ turns to uncap. Put our cap off to the side, and then we see our section or our nib. I did get this one with the Penbbs medium nib. I love their medium nib. Of course, we've got our standard Penbbs feed on the back. I haven't done anything different with that. We see our section here. Section tapers down just slightly and then flares out at the end. Now, because this is somewhat of a minimalistic design where there's not really anything else on here but really the kind of the material and that clip, but you'll also notice that there's just straight surface area. There's no step up as far as when the cap meets the barrel. So that creates more of a step down right here. Now, one of the things that a couple reviewers have noted is that this step down is rather sharp. I know Chris Rat 52, that was something that he noted in his review as well, that was a bit bothersome when riding with the pen. And I would agree. This step down, you definitely feel it. It's metal. You'll see here, and I think also depending upon where exactly you hold the pen, you really can feel it. And it can have a tendency at times to kind of dig into your fingers. So that for me can be somewhat of a deal breaker. I don't mind writing with this pen at all. I generally hold the pen closer to the nib, so my fingers aren't really hitting this step down that much. And it fits pretty comfortably in my hand. I have about, I would say fairly average sized hands, maybe a little bit on the larger side, but not super large hands by any means. And but I, again, could see this being an issue for some users, so I do want to note that. Now, this pen does post, so if you wanted to post it, you can, and it posts securely. I mean, it's not coming off of there. To me, it makes it a little bit back heavy, but I think if you have larger hands, it would probably be pretty comfortable for some. But I think if you have, about average to small hands, this is a pen that you can write with very comfortably unposted. Nice thing about it is you've got a cap that has a clip as well as these, flat sides, so it's not going to necessarily roll away easily. So you can put that really just wherever. Now, taking off the barrel, this is a cartridge converter pen, so you've got your standard Penbbs converter here. Nothing crazy there. This one, of course, basically the same converter you see on most Penbbs pens. Now, in essence, that's really about, the pen. I'm going to do some sizing comparisons, kind of show it. I have my Penbbs 323 and aluminum finish as well, kind of show that off between those two pens, do a couple other comparisons as well, and then we'll continue with the review from there. All right, so just for some comparisons, and partially for sizing comparison, but also just kind of to give you an idea of how this pen stacks up against some other popular Penbbs models. So for the pens that you see here, so to start with the bottom and work our way up, we have our Penbbs 266, some people may call it a 308. This one actually is labeled as a 266. Of course, we have our Penbbs 380 here. We have our 323 in the aluminum finish here. I wanted to show that off to kind of show the difference in the materials as well as the similarities. And then we have our Penbbs 309 on top here. So you'll notice that the Penbbs 380 is the largest out of these pens. And I mean, it's definitely, I wouldn't call it an oversized pen, but it's not a small pen whatsoever. It is, nice and substantial. It feels, good. So from that perspective, I think it's a nice design. If you like a larger pen per se. Now let's see these pens in their uncapped form so we can kind of compare sections. They all have about the same nib, so there's not going to be a lot of differences there. All right, so here we see all four pens in their regular writing state, unposted. And we've got really four different designs as far as the idea of the sections. So that's another nice thing. You'll notice that all four of them are really about the same size. I mean, when you put it in your hand, it's going to feel the same as far as the pen's overall size, as far as the length goes. As far as comfort for me and what I prefer, I would say the 323 for me, just the design of the pen is the most comfortable to write with and hold. And then I would say the 266/308 is second, and then the 309, and then I'd put the 380 as the least. They all have about the same nib as far as the size of the nib. They're all going to be number 6 Penbbs nibs. You have two medium nibs here, and then you have your fines on the end. Get a little bit of a close-up of those sections. So you'll notice, of course, here you've got kind of like a traditional styled section where it just tapers down and then flares out. Somewhat similar in the 380, but this 380 has a really pronounced step down, which I think kind of inhibits that pen somewhat. And then, of course, we have a really nice hourglass or concave section that I really prefer with the 323. And then this section, similar to the 266 a little bit on the 309, where it just tapers down and then flares out at the end. This section to me is a little bit girthier, so I do like that that factor. But I think they're all, all not bad, but I definitely prefer the 323 section the most. Now, real quick before we show them in their posted forms, just kind of comparing these two materials. So we have obviously a deeper gray here and a lighter kind of silverish gray. You'll notice that they almost have some pearlescence to them, sort of. A little bit of chatoyance, which I actually really like. I think they're attractive. They look nice in person. I think they also look somewhat professional too, in a way, especially the 323. I think it's definitely a pen you could take to work if you're in a more of a business setting. At least that's my opinion. Not a pen you're obviously going to put in a shirt pocket, but I think you can use this with the way the material is. I know some people have complained that this one feels slippery. I don't have an issue with it. I also kind of like the fact that the threads are at the end of the section. I don't mind that. I'd rather have them there in some respects than back here. So I actually kind of like that. And the materials do feel different. I will say this one is more on the slicker side. If you have probably very oily fingers, this one could be difficult. This one definitely has more, it just feels like it has more texture to it, I guess would be the word I'm looking for. So that is one thing to note, of course. Now let's just see the pins real quick posted, so that way you can get an idea of how those look that way. All right, so now we see all 4 pins in their posted form. Of course, the 323 does not post because of the design. So I was just gonna show it unposted. Now you'll notice again the 380 is the largest out of these pins from a posting perspective. I think comfort-wise, the 309 is a really comfortable one to post. I like the way it posts. Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with this design, of course. It works well. So there you have it from that perspective. Now up next, I'll do some sizing as well as some weights for you so you can get some ideas from that perspective. And then of course, we will do a writing sample and then finish up with final thoughts from there. All right, so we are back for the writing sample. And I apologize, I'm actually gonna move this up a little bit. So a little bit of shaking here. So as far as the ink that I'm using, I'll go and show that. I've got some Diamine Brandy Dazzle in there. It's some of their shimmering ink, of course. Brownish gold ink. I actually really like that ink. The only bad thing about it is it does kind of make it hard to clean out a little bit at times. But this, of course, is the Penbbs medium nib. So let's see how this nib performs. So we've got our Penbbs 380 model and the medium nib. Of course, as most medium nibs with Penbbs, very smooth, writes well, no issues as far as that goes. All right, so there's the initial writing sample. You know, as far as wetness goes, this nib is great. This nib really kind of makes this pen. This ink, like I said, it clogs up the feed, so for it to be able to do that much, it works very well. Line variation, it's not a nib you're gonna really get any line variation out of. Really just puts down more ink. But again, I think it does its intended purpose. So like I said, I really like Penbbs medium nibs. I love the fact that they offer these. They work well. You know, you can definitely do some fast writing. I don't, have skipping issues or anything like that. Reverse writing, a bit scratchy with this one. I'd say you're getting an extra fine line maybe, but it is possible. You'll notice writes well. Not the best ink probably for this anyways, but it does its intended purpose. So with this pen, I would say that I don't regret my purchase whatsoever. I do like the 323 better and the aluminum finish. I wish, though, I will say, I wish they had this particular finish on the 323 model. And maybe they do and I just haven't seen it or missed it. And, you know, that's fine if that's the case. But I'm glad I got this pen. I like it. It's different. I think it's aesthetically attractive. But at the end of the day, you don't just get a pen for that intended purpose. I could see this pen really annoying some people. So this may not be the pen for everyone. I would caution you, if you're thinking about getting it or haven't purchased it yet, to really consider that step down. If you're someone that does not enjoy large step downs like this, you're probably not gonna like this pen. It is sharp, it's there, you notice it. If you've got large fingers, and I know it sounds bad to say, but you know, I mean, if you've got big fingers, larger hands, this pen you might find a little bit obtrusive if you don't like step downs or sharp edges on your pens. And let's face it, if you're writing for a long period of time, it's not something that you're probably going to enjoy. I don't mind it one bit, but again, I think it's something to note. The other thing with it, you know, when you go to recap the pen and the lines don't match up, that really does drive me nuts. And it's really, I don't really know how you're going to fix that. You know, I've looked at the inner cap liner. It's kind of got like this plastic inner cap liner in here, and the threads look to be plastic, not machined. So I don't know if that's part of the issue. I don't know. But it's definitely an issue, I would say, there. But all in all, this nib really kind of saves the pen. And of course, give you a little bit of a close-up with that ink. It doesn't really come through on the camera, but I can see the shimmer in it here with the naked eye. So there you have it. I got the pen for $38 off of eBay. I've had it now for a few weeks. I thought it was time I should probably at least do some type of review on it. You know, again, I can't necessarily say you'll be extremely happy with the pen. So I'm not going to say that this is a pen that I would 100% recommend. But if you like the design, give it a try. Just understand it has its flaws. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed the review. I will continue working on my other pen reviews. Until next time, I will see you later. Bye-bye.